Did you kill these women?
No.
You did not?
No, sir. I've denied it all the time. I've been locked up. I never killed them.
71-year-old Charles Otto Weger spoke with CBS Chicago in 2010. And today, just like in 2010 and even 1961 when he was convicted, Weger says he's innocent. In March of 1960, 3 Chicago women were found beaten to death in Starved Rock State Park. They were found after having left the park's lodge to go on a hike. Weger, who was 21 at the time, worked as a dishwasher at the lodge. A piece of baleen twine found at both the scene of the crime and the lodge kitchen was one of the primary pieces of evidence tying Weger to the scene. His nephew, Jim Milby, called it just a coincidence, noting that his uncle often worked with twine-wrapped packages.
So it was his job to, in the kitchen you put stuff away. Instead of walking to the garbage can every time, he put the twine in his back pocket.
And Milby, who was 3.5 years old when his uncle was arrested, alleges Weger's confession was more than just coerced.
And the cops beat the living hell out of him to get him to confess.
Milby, who's a convicted felon himself, says he's not sure if he'll be able to be there for his uncle's release. But Milby says he hopes Weger is able to enjoy his days outside prison walls.
I hope and pray that he can adjust to this life, go with a family, one of us family, and live the rest of his life out in peace.
Weger will now have to wait 90 days before he is released. The Chicago Sun-Times says he'll go to St. Leonard's halfway house in Chicago. Bobby, back to you.
Thank you, Andy. The 9-year-old Goodfield boy charged in a quintuple murder was not in court today for a pretrial hearing. The state is still turning over evidence to the defense, so no action was taken today. They expect motions will be filed before the next hearing on December 20th. Woodford County State's Attorney Greg Minger says that he plans to file at least 2 motions, one to allow statements made by the 9-year-old and another to allow statements made about the juvenile in reference to, quote, bad acts. The next hearing is set for 2:45 p.m. on the 20th.
A Bloomington man was arrested after his 5-month-old child was taken to the hospital in critical condition. Now, 27-year-old Jordan Powell was arrested yesterday after first responders came to his house on Tuesday for a call of an unresponsive baby. The child was first taken to OSF St. Joseph's Medical Center in Bloomington, then transferred to Peoria at the Children's Hospital of Illinois. Powell was charged with aggravated domestic battery and aggravated battery of a child under 13 years old that caused permanent disability. His bond is set at $40,000. A former treasurer for the American Legion, Post 661 in Washburn, is being charged with stealing over $10,000. 51-year-old Brian Gable was arrested yesterday, and he's being charged with theft over $10,000. Woodford County State's attorney says Gable was writing checks for himself from 2016 to 2018. And court records show he previously pleaded guilty to felony theft of money that he had control over in 2006. A pricey device could help paramedics in Normal save more lives.
Stephanie Rodriguez shows us how it's taking the arm work out of CPR.
They are going to be your neck strap.
Have you ever performed CPR for hours? These firefighters have. And as you can imagine, it's not an easy task.
Our bodies get exhausted very quickly doing that kind of manual labor, and that after just a few minutes, they're not as effective, between 10 and 30% effective on compressions.
But this $15,000 machine, called the Lucas device, keeps people's blood pumping for them.
It just takes the physical portion of the CPR out of the equation, where we can focus on getting IV interventions, getting a patent airway, and taking care of the patient in other ways that, the reason why they went into cardiac arrest. We can work on that and not physically exhaust ourselves doing the CPR compressions.
It doesn't just make their jobs easier.
This machine will continue to pump at the right rate, at the right depth, indefinitely, and that makes huge changes in patient outcomes.
And it will be pumping chests at every cardiac arrest call the town of Normal goes to. In Normal, Stephanie Rodriguez, Heart of Illinois, ABC.
Thank you, Stephanie. First raises now a renovation to the workspace at the Tazewell County Clerk's office. We got a chance to look at what this $36,000 remodeling job at the Pekin office looks like. Most of that came from a federal grant. About a quarter of it will be paid for by the clerk's office. Another 15% is expected to be picked up by the county board. But the clerk is also facing questions over pay raises for his staff, ranging from 9 to 22%. The county board says they had no idea it was time to pay clerk employees more. One county board member has said the raises could lead to job losses as the rest of the board reconciles where that money came from. Clerk John Ackerman says those raises were financed through fees that pay for clerk services. The Canton Fire Department responded to a vehicle fire last night. Before they got there, police say